This video is brought to you by Redneck Engineer, custom-built gaming PCs and parts for an affordable price. Use code joshscorcher at checkout for a 5% discount. And make sure you don't have any coupon clipping extensions like Honey installed or I don't get my commission. Thank you!
Gary, what happened to you? You used to be so cool.
I'm back! Character development is one of the most essential elements to making an interesting and memorable character. Go figure. So it's all the more frustrating when a story gets it wrong. What's a character assassination? Well, under our definition, it's this. A character experiences a dramatic and unjustified shift in personality that makes them far less interesting. Maybe a hero turned into a villain for a really bad reason. Maybe it was the opposite. Whatever happened, it's the kind of thing that fans of the character choose to ignore when singing their praises. As for the criteria, it's simple. How good was the character originally, and how badly were they ruined? If a character was ruined by one game but managed to get fixed in the next one, they'll be ranked lower. Obviously, characters who are given an understandable justification for changing so dramatically are not included. Let's dive in.
Sir, we've just gotten word that a successful assassination attempt was made on a character from a fighting game.
Mud of Hylia. Who was the target?
Sindel.
Do we have ourselves a suspect?
Actually, we've already found our assassin. Mortal Kombat 11.
Ye gods! Yeah, for those who don't know about Mortal Kombat lore, Sindel, who first debuted in Mortal Kombat 3, is a fighter who, despite her appearance, is surprisingly a good-hearted soul. At least in the original Mortal Kombat timeline. She rules over the realm of Adenia, alongside her daughter, Princess Kitana, and presents herself as a regal, mature, and benevolent queen, who probably has an army of simps given that description. Unfortunately, Sindel would find herself a victim of necromancy and mind control at the hands of Quan Chi, because it's always Quan Chi. When is it ever not Quan Chi?
I hate you, and I think you should die. You are an idiot, and I hate your voice. There's no room on this paper to properly describe how much I hate you. Go die.
Under his spell, Sindel would murder her first husband, Jared, be forced into marriage with Shao Kahn, and reluctantly give up everything she had to keep her daughter safe. Now, she would break out of this and become heroic, and you can certainly sympathize with her given that she was under malevolent influence. Then Mortal Kombat 11 happened. This game decided, nah, Sindel actually meant to kill Jared, and she's been nothing but a power-hungry, traitorous monster this entire time. The fact that she was a target for rulers like Shao Kahn, Shinnok, and Onaga, the tragedy of her committing all her heinous deeds against her will? Oh, that never happened. Oh yeah, and her being unwilling to marry Shao Kahn was apparently a lie to keep the Adenians and her daughter loyal to her. She actually loves the dreamy, dominant, and assertive Shao Kahn, while Jared was a wimpy little man who believes himself and Sindel to be no better than measly commoners.
That was his mistake.
This is such a frustrating mishandling of a tragic villain. It's ridiculous. It blatantly retcons well-written lore that was already established 30 years ago at this point, turning her from a sympathetic baddie whose actions were the result of brainwashing to a psychopathic simp for Shao Kahn. Thankfully, Mortal Kombat 1 gives us a rebooted version of Sindel that's on the site of Good Again. But man, what the writers of Mortal Kombat 11 did to Sindel in the original timeline really pisses me off. If Mortal Kombat Annihilation can handle Sindel's backstory better than 11, you got no excuse. Star Fox Adventures. No one really talks about Star Fox Adventures. You know, except for the obvious.
Hello!
Yep, Crystal. This is the game she debuted in, and she spent most of it trapped in a crystal. Get it? Fast forward to 2005 with Assault, and she ends up joining the Star Fox team as one of their newest pilots. She and Fox start dating, and they have a pretty solid relationship. Fox is a little protective, but he still treats her like she's part of the team. And why shouldn't she be? She's a telepath who saved their bacon from a race of psychic bugs way more times than we could recall. But then we come to Star Fox Command, and just like that, the honeymoon's over. Apparently, psychic bugs are a-okay, but frog emperors? Nah, that's too dangerous for the blue telepath lady, as Fox kicks Crystal off the team. You know, despite all the good she's done to help them, dick move, Fox. Major dick move. Out of pettiness, Crystal ends up joining Starwolf, a rival team whose hands are, not exactly the cleanest. Throughout the rest of the game, she constantly moans about what Fox did to her, and she even betrays and tries to kill them at one point. Again, over a breakup. And then there are the endings. Certain paths and choices you take massively affect where Crystal's story concludes. Some endings have her and Fox make amends and actually get back together. Others are not so kind. One ending has Crystal rejoin Star Fox only to dump him again and go back to Starwolf, and then shunned by literally everyone, forcing her to go off as a lone bounty hunter. And by the time Fox sees her in this ending, he barely recognizes her. Now, those would be tragic and make me sympathize with her if she didn't bring them on herself. Now, the reason this is so low is that while most of it was Fox's fault for kicking her to the curb, Crystal seriously overreacted. You know that one really stupid trope in storytelling where in one chapter of the story the couple gets together, but in the very next chapter after a time skip they've broken up or are on ice or something? That's this, and it sucks. Especially in the bounty hunter ending. Yeah, he messed up, big time, but you can argue that a lot of his actions and the ending results were player-driven. Crystal's, on the other hand, weren't player-driven. She willingly chose to walk down the dark paths and fashion the consequences herself. And the fact that she did this over a breakup just makes her look so childish. It's because of this that a lot of fans don't consider Command canon. Heck, even her voice actress doesn't count it. Ugh, I swear Command is just writers making fanfiction official.
My first fanfiction. Now all the characters will share my opinion.
Having tie-in media connected to a major franchise is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can sometimes be better than the source material. But if you're watching a movie and they reference an event that happened in a tie-in that not everyone has access to, it's gonna feel like a chore to do the research to connect the dots. And there are the times when character derailment happens in a tie-in. Which brings me to Alex Mercer. Quick recap, the real Alex Mercer was a scientist who died during the start of the virus outbreak. This Alex was duplicated by the virus with amnesia and superhuman abilities. He became a hero of sorts, trying to put the pieces of what he thinks are his memories back together. However, it turns out that the real Alex was kind of a prick in all honesty. The original game ended with our Alex having a bit of an existential crisis and leaving to find his place in the world.
I looked for the truth. Found it. Didn't like it. Wish the hell I could forget it.
Kind of bittersweet, but it showed that he had some bit of faith in humanity and wanted to be a part of it. This is huge considering he was created to destroy it, but then Prototype 2 came around and
humanity is stagnant, dying. I would give it one body, one mind.
What the heck? Suddenly, humanity is completely useless and he'd rather destroy it. Yeah, he becomes just as evil as the ones who created him. He manipulates Heller, the new protagonist for the sequel, to further his own goals to spread the virus. By the way, Mercer was the one who unleashed the virus a second time, so he caused the death of Heller's family. You're probably wondering what all this has to do with my little rant from earlier. Well, it turns out we did find out what happened to Mercer to make him this way. In a comic! In a 3-issue miniseries titled Prototype 2 The Anchor, we see what Mercer's been up to between both games. He went globetrotting to try and restore his faith in humanity. Unfortunately, he witnesses a few too many rotten eggs and has kind of a black and white view of good and evil. Oh, and he got his heart broken by a pretty girl. Because of course he did. How compelling. I mean, sure, I can see a heel turn working for this character, but the way it came about was so forced. We spent an entire game watching him grow a conscience, then he gets dumped and decides to make it all of humanity's problem. And the fact that this important bit of the story was told in a random side comic makes it feel even more contrived and idiotic. Sadly, there hasn't been a new prototype game since no way to salvage this mess of a story. And that's how it all ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Pokemon's got a wide cast of human characters, and aside from a select few, most of them stay the same in between games. So you wouldn't expect a main villain's entire story to collapse come the updated third release of a generation, right? Well, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon ended up dropping the ball hard in this case. Sure, we got Necrozma. That's not the issue. The issue is what happened to Lusamine to get to this point. So in the original Sun and Moon, everything in the story revolved around her and her relationship with her kids. Thanks to the double whammy of her husband disappearing into Ultra Space and that same Ultra Space containing her new obsession Nihilego, Lusamine is kinda, sorta an insane abusive monster. Specifically, thanks to the neurotoxin flowing through her, Lusamine has become hyper-fixated on Nihilego and to an extent, the ideas of beauty. This leads her to emotionally abuse both Lily and Gladian due to them not being beautiful enough, and wanting to tear open more holes into Ultra Space just so she can be with Nihilego forever. Add to that her collection of cryogenically frozen Pokemon, and you have a recipe for one of Pokemon's darkest villains. How did they screw this up? It's simple. They just changed her motivations to being sympathetic. That's it. She did all that, drove her kids away, forced Nibby to rip holes in Ultra Space, and cryogenically froze a bunch of Pokemon forever, but her entire motivation was she wants to stop Necrozma, which makes zero sense given her insane actions are kept in. But now she's decidedly not insane, or portrayed like anything more than biting off more than she can chew. After you beat her in this game, she just stops being evil. It's this declawed in over her head portrayal that Pokemon seems to want to go with going forward with Lusamine, and frankly, that's disappointing. Funnily, it's the opposite problem of Sindel. As an insane monster hooked on neurotoxin, Lusamine was a scarily realistic portrayal of an abusive parent driving away her kids due to horrible coping mechanisms, but it's almost like Pokemon realized that they went too dark with Lusamine and backpedaled way too much without doing enough to separate her actions from this new portrayal. I mean, at least new Lusamine isn't the worst CEO villain who miscalculates the power of a legendary they try to control. Hi, Chairman Rose. Please tell me about the supposed energy crisis in Pokemon of all franchises. Seriously, you have creatures that generate massive amounts of electricity. How is this an issue? Paper Jam is almost like a taboo subject for Mario and Luigi fans due to it not being a Paper Mario crossover, but rather a Sticker Star crossover. It's a shame because the gameplay is actually some of the best in the series, but man, the writing is just not there. Alpha Dream's natural sense of humor just isn't present. Look what happened to Starlo. Most fans nowadays would doubtless know Starlo as an annoying Luigi hater, but she wasn't always that shallow. In Bowser's Inside Story, she's a captain who steers the titular living ship and can take command as a bossy, yet slick negotiator, convincing the Koopa King to aid the bros without him knowing it. Even when she does make fun of Luigi, she does show some leniency for him eventually. Plus, you can't fully blame her for having a poor first impression of him when he sleeps in the middle of an important meeting. And in Dream Team, honestly, she does so much work taking care of Luigi outside of the dream world that I can't remember any instance of her being remotely mean to him. Even if she can be a smart aleck, she's still wise enough to read the room and takes things seriously. Paper Jam threw all that out the window, made her into one joke: hating Luigi for no reason. It's bad enough that she's the only non-mainline character left here. They just had to make her as unlikable as possible because it can't seem to get through their heads that bullying Luigi constantly is not funny. Even when Luigi goes solo in this game, she still can't stop breathing down his neck. Could you imagine if she spoke to Bowser like this in Inside Story? I don't think the adventure would even start. There's this preconception that Nintendo likes hating Luigi. But if you look at the evidence, I'm not entirely sure that's true. Alpha Dream certainly cared about Luigi, since the first 4 Mario and Luigi games gave him a lot of time to shine. Sure, he kept getting knocked around, but something good always came out of it for him in the end. Heck, the series has his name on it, for crying out loud. And even if the Year of Luigi was a flop, Nintendo still didn't give up on his protagonist spotlight. If Luigi's Mansion 3 is any indication, Brothership even gave us a partner who actively respects him and loves his company. For each time he's treated like a joke, there are always real moments of stardom that show there are people behind the scenes who are willing to give him the respect he deserves. Now, I think the real culprit here is Intelligent Systems. Just about every Paper Mario game finds an excuse to kick Luigi in the head without any justice behind it. It's only until Paper Jam did the stink lines become crystal clear, from how ungrateful the Paper Toads are to Starlo being reduced to Kirsty 2.0. Insys, if there's still a heart in your team, apologize to Green Stash, make good stories again, and stay away from Alpha Dream's daughter! I wish to complain about these people I witnessed not half a day ago in this Metroid Other M. Oh yes, that's Samus and Adam. What's wrong with them? I'll tell you what's wrong with them. They're dead. That's what's wrong with them. No, they's evolved. Look. Look, mate, I know dead characters when I see them, and I'm looking at them right now. No, they's not dead. They's better. Better? Yeah, remarkable bonds, Samus and Adam. Wonderful kinship, ain't it? The kinship comes off as abuse. They're stone dumb. No, they's better. All right, then, that they's better, I'll ask him this. Hello, Adam! Act like the competent leader the story treats you as and the respectable person Samus thinks you are! There, he just did. No, he didn't. That was him splitting up troops. He never. Yes, he did. He never made dumb commands. Hello, Samus! Testing! Authorized! Please go into the pyrosphere naked! That's what I call some dead character. No, they's hurt. Hurt? Yeah, you didn't get them. Just did it with issues, Samus and Adam. Real complex. No, look, mate, I definitely had enough of this. These characters are certainly deceased. And when I bought Other M not half a day ago, you assured me that this game would redefine Samus as a fully three-dimensional and human character we would like. Well, you probably just misunderstood. Just misunderstood? What kind of talk is that? Look, why did Samus keep trusting Adam after he let her scorch? Well, Samus prefers taking orders from her superiors, remarkable lasses, and gave us lovely story. Look, I took the liberty of playing the previous entries before this one. And Samus was perfectly fine doing everything by her lonesome without Adam needing to authorize her upgrades. Well, of course she takes orders. If Adam wasn't there, she would have gone to the powerbomb early, dropped it on the ground, and boom! Look, mate. Samus would have boomed the whole place because she's not a dunce. It's bleeding demised. No, it's pining. There's not pining. There's passed on. These characters are no more. They have ceased to be. They's expired and gone to meet his maker. They shuffled off his mortal coil, run down the curtain, and joined the bleeding choir invisible. These are ex-characters. Well, I better record them then. Want to get a good Metroidvania in this day and age, I gotta head to the indie scene. So, Squire, I've had a look around the back of the place and we just killed the franchise. I see, I get the picture. Want a spin-off? But is it good? Not really. Well, it's hardly a proper follow-up, is it? Oh, Penelope, you show so much promise. Between being Sly's second female ally and Bentley's better half, you are destined for great things. It's a shame what careless direction in the name of brave storytelling could do to such a character. She was introduced in Sly 3 as Bentley's contact who fought Sly under the alias Black Baron. Once you beat her, she agrees to join the Cooper gang, offering them her additional expertise in machinery. She shows a lot of interest in Sly that can be interpreted as affection, which makes Bentley jealous. But despite this, she still looks out for Bentley. At the end of episode 5, the two have each other's back as they take down the whole pirate crew. And from that, romance is in the air. By the end of the game, she's stuck around to help Bentley preserve the Cooper legacy, even helping him build a time machine. How sweet. A well-developed couple of two awesome mechanics who fight through high and low for each other. Now let's look at how Sly 4 demolishes that.
This won't end well.
When you enter episode 4 of Thieves in Time, you're introduced to its main villain, the Black Knight. When you spy on them, you hear murmurs about them calling Penelope a fool, as if they had a hand in Penelope going missing. I mean, the technological nature of this villain and that logo on their chest could only tell us so much.
It's me, Cooper!
Oh, son of a...
Yeah, it's Penny. She stole Bentley's time machine blueprint and gave it to her new boss, Le Paradox, aka Mr. Also, he can erase the Cooper legacy. But why would she do such a thing? Fame and fortune and that her and Bentley's potential are wasted on Sly.
Excuse me, what?
Okay. First of all, bitch, you wanted money? Sly gave you his lifelong family treasure to do with as you please. Where did that all go?
This doesn't make any sense.
Second, wasn't she going gaga over Sly all across the last game?
Sly Cooper fans, remember?
Where did this come from? What did Sly do to suddenly make Penelope hate him so much? This is one of those super unexpected twists with no basis or coherent build-up to make the story stand out, isn't it?
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Look, it didn't work with Command Mission, it's not going to work here. Plus, giving Bentley a moving on from a toxic relationship arc is so out of left field and unnecessary. Rather than adding to Bentley's character, they removed someone who could have given him more dynamics outside of just being Sly's friend. So now he's back to just being Sly's friend again. Yay!
Thanks, I hate it.
Sure, you could argue Penelope was sketchy to begin with. She is a con artist after all. But the main hero is a law-breaking chaotic good. This is unnecessary. But our main character is a good-hearted thief, so this feels out of place. Even if they want to make her a bad guy, the least they could do is give her time to fall into temptation instead of foregoing established growth just for the sake of a cheap twist. We already have Nayla and Sly 2 to fulfill the role of evil traitor bench. We don't need another one. What a mess. Considering that the game ended with Penelope escaping captivity, the best we can hope is that she gets a redemption arc in Sly 5. If that game ever happens. Maybe becoming a prominent ally who helps Sly get out of Egypt? I don't know. Some fans theorize her trying to get revenge on Sly and possibly becoming Clockwork, but no, that just makes things worse. Turn her into Nayla 2.0. Honestly, we're better off never getting Sly 5 than that happening.
Who the fuck wrote this engine?
There seems to be an ongoing trend where studios try to give a lighthearted entry in a franchise a more dark and mature tone. If handled with care, it can honestly end up pretty dang good. A masterpiece even. Or it could end up totally jarring and alienate fans of the original. QED, Prince of Persia, Warrior Within. To put things into perspective, Sands of Time took a niche game franchise that was pretty dead in the water and gave it new life with fun gameplay, story, and characterization. However, there were a few critiques that the game might have been too soft and childish. Ubisoft's response? They overdid it hard. The gameplay is pretty good, but what they did with the Prince? This one especially hurts because Sands of Time Prince is one of my favorite characters and one half of my favorite romances. When we first met His Highness in Sands of Time, he was introspective, selfish, and sometimes arrogant, but he always meant well. He had a sharp, playful wit, often displaying humor even in dire situations. Yuri Lowenthal really brought out his expressiveness and growth. He only fought out of necessity, with acrobatic finesse and almost blasé reaction to combat. And the best part, he grew as a character. He learned humility and responsibility, seeking to undo his mistakes. And his relationship with Farah? Mwah! They had amazing chemistry that allowed him to have emotional depth and vulnerability. Warrior Within, however, says not any of that. Gone is the joy, sharp wit, and sophistication. Instead, he goes full edgelord and not the fun kind. He's constantly brooding, aggressive, and cynical with an ice-cold demeanor. His dialogue is gruff and full of bitterness, completely devoid of the charisma we fell in love with. No offense to Robin Atkin-Downs, who does a better job in the third installment. But here, too much anger, not enough depth. All the lessons Prince learned in the last game, out the window. Instead of growing further as a hero, he became jaded and self-serving. He's also a complete brute in combat, gruesomely slaughtering his enemies and howling like an animal. Huge departure from the previous one. To put it bluntly, he's a total Oh, and his romance. Sad to say, Farah doesn't appear at all in Warrior Within, except for a vision where... oofta. So they kinda tease a romance between the prince and Kylina and... ugh. Look, maybe I'm just too set in my ways, but there is no spark between these two. The relationship just feels shallow, with little effort to develop meaningful connections and just, ooh, boobies. Honestly, if this didn't directly reference Sands of Time, I would not believe they were the same character. They turned a poetic, fairy tale-like adventure in the Arabian Nights into a grimdark edgelord aesthetic with heavy metal music and excessive violence. This shift was so forced and out of place, and the prince suffered the most from it. It's especially painful because we're stuck with him for most of the game. I really hate the mentality where making a character mature and adult means sucking the fun out of them, because that couldn't be further from the truth. Personally, I'll stick with my funny, emotionally developed, childish prince over the edgy big boy any day of the week. That's right, people. It's gonna be a Xehanort segment. Stick around for the fun. There's the progress bar. No one would blame you.
You said nobody would blame me.
It's called sarcasm. Okay, hey, aspiring writers. Are you looking to assassinate your entire rogues gallery? No. Well, unluckily for you, Kingdom Hearts has provided a 13-step program on how to do so. Follow it closely, and you too can completely wipe out any and all interest your audience ever had in your villains. Step 1. Introduce a perfectly good villain with a solid backstory. Then kill off said villain in a satisfactory way without any indication that they will return. Step 2. Introduce new villains with clearly established motives while hinting at a greater villain they plan to betray. Step 3. Completely retcon the original villain's backstory, thus robbing them of their interesting motives and turning them into a generic bad guy. Step 4. Introduce a new villain, an alternate version of the previous one, with a compelling motive and satisfactory backstory. Then perform equally satisfactory defeat without any indication that they will return. Step 5. Introduce the original version of the first villain in an attempt to clear things up. Step 6. Make things way more complicated by revealing that said original was actually possessing someone the whole time and lost his memory. Step 7. Introduce a younger version of the original villain whose only purpose is to act vague and mysterious. Step 8. Reveal that the villain had the ability to use time travel this entire time with no build-up. Step 9. Reveal that the motives of the previous villain were false the entire time, therefore undoing any sympathy the audience may have had for them. Step 10. Reveal that the original is back due to lore that was never established or alluded to beforehand. Step 11. Turn the previous traitors into just more versions of the main villains. Step 12. Reveal that the main villain was just a misunderstood good guy the whole time. Step 13. Attempt to expand on the villain's backstory to make them more sympathetic long after the audience has grown sick of them. So yeah, pretty simple. Oh, coming up after the dishonorable mentions, I'll show you how to assassinate your entire cast! Patrick Spriggs, Mega Man Star Force 2 and 3. Hey, let's make a complex character with DID who suffers from neglect and throw his arc in the bin for the rest of the series. Reincarnated Awakening Children, Fire Emblem Fates. They're technically different characters, but they're still the fanfic-ish copies that reduce the originals to a shell of themselves. Fuck you, Rajat! Junko Enoshima, Danganronpa series. Think something clever's hidden behind that zany persona? Too bad, she's just the punchline, and the writers will never let her die. Deadpool, the Deadpool game. It's sad that the game blatantly ignored the tragic side of his character in favor of memes. So, the question remains, how do you mess up so badly that the entire cast gets assassinated and flanderized beyond recognition? It sounds practically impossible. Like you need some sort of magician to pull it off. Randy! Borderlands, just what happened to you? Prior to Borderlands 3, the series managed to blend comedically dark psychopathy with an actually compelling narrative centered around corporate greed, child abuse, and the fact that Pandora is just the worst place to ever exist in. Come Borderlands 3, and everything familiar gets thrown out the window in favor of haha, funny means funny, awkward, self-aware humor. How bad is it? Well, like previously stated, every single character has been butchered. If you know anything about this game, you may have heard that Ava is the worst character in this game. But believe it or not, she's not even in the running for how poor this game's character writing is. Throw her out the window here because she's at least consistent and has an actual character. Okay, let's start at the start of the game. Problems first arise when you meet Vaughn from Tales of the Borderlands. In that game, he was an intelligent, frugal businessman who was forced to adapt to Pandora's Pandora-ness by becoming a bandit. Here, he's an annoying dude bro, constantly spouting catchphrases, and he does not shut up. Then you meet Tannis, who had her comedic insanity and shades of tragedy from being abandoned on this planet to a quirky, little random god scientist who ends up somehow cracking the code on giving herself siren powers, and then gets kidnapped anyway because potatoes. Oh, let's not forget Reese, the protagonist of the first Tales. The man whose entire character arc was to grow past his idolization of Handsome Jack and commit himself to never being a greedy, selfish businessman. And in 3 and Tales 2, he is, guess. Go on, guess. Your first guess is correct. A greedy, selfish businessman whose biggest concern about a death later pointed at his planet is his favorite frozen yogurt stand because jokes!
Say goodbye to your favorite Frogurt stand.
Not friends, Frogurts, anything but friends, Frogurts.
It gets to a point where entire factions of people are completely changed without regard for anything that came before. Remember how the various bandit factions were all completely separate entities, often warring with each other? It could be at least taken a little seriously? Borderlands 3 says, oops, all psychos. They're all generalized into wacky maniacs who blindly follow the Calypsos, regardless of any previous alignment. The planet of Pandora itself ain't even safe. A horrifying death world with various biomes populated by actual settlements trying to survive? It's just all desert now. Everyone you find is just a random one-off funny encounter with no actual permanent settlements aside from psycho camps, and I think you get the point now. The first set of Borderlands games tried to create a world that was equally as tragic as it was funny. For all the comedic sociopathy in these games, there was an actual attempt to build a believable world that you could take seriously and see develop, and also laugh at things in it. Post 3, all of that was thrown away in favor of dumbing down everything in this franchise to scream at the top of their lungs every unfunny joke after unfunny joke. It's really telling that Tales of the Borderlands 2 was written not as a story to take seriously, but by the writer's own admission as an interactive sitcom. A complete destruction of everything that came before. What happened to the Borderlands series is an incalculable disaster of character writing. I'm joshscorcher, and... hey, Count.
Hi. I used the front door this time.
Aw, look at you, finally learning basic etiquette. So what are you here for?